expect Ballistix to go down. Just really, again, the draft that we saw from Ballistix, there's so many question marks that you can just put up there.
I will leave it at for me, it's a game 1 against BlossoM. If you're Ballistix, you've got to be confident against going against BlossoM. We talked about the dominance of the top 3 teams into Korea. Yes, BlossoM is obviously, sitting at that 4th seed, one of the most respectable within the region. And then going on to Dragonshire, they were going to a comp that they kind of had success with, right? I guess it's not fair to say kind of, but they at least believed in, and we saw them display before. And so they're, hitting the brakes for now, trying not to show anything. If this second game goes in the same direction or even close to that manner, as I feel like this whole tournament and the results and what everybody expected is going to just be like, who knows?
Well, speaking of who knows, one thing we do know is Towers of Doom was picked up, Dredd. And before this started, we're back here kind of prepping, talking about how things work. And coming in, after the first part of Phase 1, this was the only map that BlossoM had a win percentage over 500. And it was on Towers of Doom. They were 3-1. And this is kind of their best battleground when it comes to win rate, comfortability, and Dragonshire is just kind of like throwing a wrench into things. And so the fact that they get map pick on maps that they feel comfortable, they do well on, and they're experienced on, I think is something that is very telling and coming into this series. And if they're able to go up 2-0, you can say that the drafts and the maps are definitely something that are working in their favor.
And I think it's safe to say as well that we're not going to see double support again. I think, as you said, Dredd, they may have tried to test the waters. How far can we get against a team that is quote-unquote inferior to us, like BlossoM? But here on Towers of Doom, where oftentimes you have scenarios which force you to split yourselves up, to have multiple fronts open at the same time, I think that doesn't really fit the playstyle.
Yeah, I hope we don't.
I hope to.
That's where I leave it. I mean, double support, I do believe, still has a bit of a time and a place, but that very much was not in the last game. But again, the metas within the Eastern and Western world have been very different, very drastic, and changing. And so I guess I'm not that surprised, again, to see that kind of display from them.
Right there. All the players out there are starting to sweat a little, starting to shake a little. Don't let double support be a thing. Again, I can already hear it. The Lily mains out there rejoice.
Oh, man, please.
We go straight to the Lily and double support. Kendrick, please.
I mean, if you're going to talk about a support, it might as well, like,
she's got a soft spot in my heart, unless she's in my team.
Toronto, though.
Maev going to be the first ban for Ballistix here for this draft on Towers of Doom. Genji being hovered. I hope to see this locked in again, not only because of the consistency of the Genji priority over the last series, but when we were talking about the pick of the Vala, right? SC's hero pool is, I mean, it's the only narrative I feel like that can concentrate on this next draft. There's the Tyrael coming in, the Genji taking off. Are we still going to see a commitment towards that Vala, or is it going to be a higher priority on something like the Hanzo or, the Wild Greymane?
Well, the Mouth Tracer obviously comes to mind here, but if we learned anything in our first series between KSV and Tempest was that, yes, that's good, but what happens when it's drafted against? And if the Uther comes out, you've got Tyrael Uther to defend against that. You have to consider the options of what your secondary option will be if you're BlossoM. And Towers of Doom, obviously quite a bit different. We talked about the whiz factor on Dragonshire, allowing him to rotate and to be into team fights a little bit more than he is on other battlegrounds. Again, that's where BlossoM really excels. When he's able to get into team fights, when he's able to be a part in a full 5-man skirmish, that's when BlossoM excels.
I'm waiting for one of those big, beefy bad boys here, like Diablo, like the Garrosh. I think Diablo in particular is oftentimes underrated on Towers of Doom. The map design just suits him so well. Yeah. We saw that at the Western Clash when Breeze was turning it up to a whole different level there. So we're not going to see any of those tanks being selected right now, though. The Tracer Mouth is just too solid, too strong of a staple here to ignore.
Hanzo Uther picked up there. Uther, we've talked about it. I mean, I feel like at this point we've seen enough of this pattern for do we not need to describe why the Uther is selected. But the Hanzo, it's not that it is a unique priority. It's just that they are showing that they are putting more focus into making sure that they don't have the, what I'm going to now title the Vala problem of last game. And really just every time that double support's been played out here. Not maybe, I don't want to say as successful a map for him, but it very much is compared to Dragonshire, but it is going to be great and successful most likely in these team fights by just having that double invulnerability. I like this for Ballistix. I think that it's going to be the beginning of turning a new leaf of this series.
A hero that I want to talk about here real quick, J-How, is the Chromie. against the Tracer in particular, we talked about potential Tracer counters, and oftentimes the Bronze Talon's slam damage from those auto attacks and even the potential burst combo as well is something that Tracer players need to be on the lookout for. And I think Towers of Doom out of all Battlegrounds really suits Chromie because there's only so many angles she can get flanked from. So are you down with me on that train? Do you think Chromie should be a little bit more involved in this?
You know, SD has played a couple of Chromie games, and once you get to level 11, if you're Chromie, you can kind of just time out of things and make sure that if you are the Pulse Bomb, I think a lot of it comes down to if you're going double backline and Hanzo is already a vulnerable target, Uther can really only take care of one of those if needed. Having the secondary one, they have to have a fallback option. Chromie is one of the few heroes that would have that. Another hero that would have that I might be more in favor of is SDE's Tychus. It was his most played hero by far. So I think that Chromie is possible. I think Tychus is definitely viable here. And the fact that you're Tracer kind of limits your options, I think, for a lot of those reasons, is having that self-protection, whether it be a time trap, whether it be the time out for Chromie. So I think that is definitely in consideration, but I think it also depends on where BlossoM ends up on the later part of this draft.
All right. So the Junkrat, no more mayhem desired by Ballistix. I can't really blame them after we saw what Reset was capable of doing on that hero in the previous set and what happened last game to them. It is good to abandon that without an Abathur coming in sneakily.
I was wondering if we would see maybe a different direction in the frontliner from BlossoM. Just because having the Abathur and the long sustained fight, or excuse me, the long shielding on somebody like a Garrosh and the threat they can provide, it makes it more difficult for Ballistix to kind of get some of the norm. But ETC, he's a strong powerhouse. I mean, he was pretty successful at the Western Clash as well. Not surprised to see BlossoM go in that area, but it does... I do have some concerns, at least with their composition, not when I look at the overall strength, but because it is kind of flexing a little bit out of the norm for them. And Ballistix now is... We see them sticking to their guns of what we saw in Korea. So I'm hoping that this is them going, you know what? We've done the math. We figured it out. We know how to deal with what Ballistix is comfortable with, even on maps like Towers.
I'm afraid they're going to go into a Tassadar here. And
on Ballistix?
Yeah. Not going into a Tychus at this point is just going to blow my mind. He does so well to deal with ETC. He's another interrupt for Mosh Pit. He shreds through ETC with his minigun.
Dahaka.
We get the Dahaka.
Not Tassadar.
There's the finally. 12-0. 12 and SDE is 12 wins, 0 losses, has annihilated people. 3.6 kills per game on this hero. As a Tychus, Dreadnought, that is shredding people as a Tychus.
Are you enthusiastic about this Tychus pick, Jay?
I'm just so happy that we finally get it.
No, I agree with you. I'm actually very satisfied to be able to see it. But this is, it's hard to talk about, honestly, because it is one of these, the conflicting metas, and for the first time, it does feel like, you know, again, that the Western scene with the rise of the strength of it, and not only within North America, but more so within Europe, just that it's kind of hard to gauge. It's like, at what point do you sit there and you go, like, they are dominant on the Tychus, but it's just not their meta, not their playstyle, especially when Ballistix, a team that you would look at and you'd be like, after their games yesterday, you go, they're going to dominate BlossoM, right? And then that struggle in the first one, it just goes, where's the mix-up going to come in? I'm glad to see them go with the Tychus as well. I feel like it's going to be a bit more thought out. We get our rare wild Dahaka, one of the first times we've gotten him throughout this entire tournament, probably thanks to that Junkrat ban. Last slot in, we got ourselves a Zeratul.
That's a Wiz favorite right there if he ends up on that hero after all, because we'd have a couple of candidates who could possibly end up on it. Modern Life, actually a really solid Zeratul player as well if he desires to play it. And I'm really glad, though, that you guys share so much enthusiasm over SDE, because to me he's always like one of those unsung heroes. Like, a lot of attention is on SCEC, obviously. We have players like Magi who recently got into the limelight a little bit. SDE, but if you have such a solid, reliable player, 12-0, as you said, J-How.
12. Yeah, it's 12-0. You have Relentless Soldier if you need, which gives you armor if you're stunned or rooted. Oh, by the way, ETC's there, Malfurion's there. You can also go quarterback range to get that extra poke on the backside, hit a Tracer running away. You also have Neosteel coding, so at 13 you get hit with a Pulse Bomb. You don't need the Uther protection. Allow Hanzo to do whatever he wants to do. Got Horsies going on here.
Okay, that was a money pick.
I thought it was my stomach.
Money pick.
I thought it was my stomach.
We're ready for this game. You know, J-How's going to break down some of the reasons Tychus is effective into the Tracer and some other reasons why the Tychus is so good. SDE is going to put on a clinic here. BlossoM versus Ballistix on Towers of Doom.
Game number 2 is on the way, Jay. After witnessing how BlossoM dismantled Ballistix in the late game, I am very pumped to see if they can do it again and make it a double, maybe a triple, and take this entire series in advance.
I know Dread likes it when it's a triple.
Oh, baby. Yeah, we all do.
Either way, we've got Towers of Doom here. Ballistix falling short with their double support composition. And Kendrick, if you look at the draft here from Ballistix, if you could say, hey, look, ignore the map, ignore everything that you know, and just look at drafts of Ballistix and comprise me a team, this would be it.
Yeah, definitely true. And I'm really excited to see how well the Zero Tool is going to fare here in this game, because traditionally speaking, we don't really have like a true wombo combo setup here. True, there could be a little bit of ETC mosh pitting in there, but it's nothing like the team composition that we saw from KSV Black, the Warden's Cage, with the Junkrat Riptire, for example. So this is more of a more harassing Zero Tool playstyle to really catch somebody off guard, trying to bait a couple of cooldowns only to blink to safety, and maybe then use a little bit of confusion, use the cooldowns of Uther to then execute a target with the Tracer combined.
The amount of wave clear here by Ballistix is insane when you look at it compared to BlossoM. I mean, you can get a little bit of clear from Zeratul, but Tracer doesn't have good clear. Malfurion doesn't have good clear. ETC doesn't have good clear. And the only time ETC really gets any bit of wave clear is post-level 7, generally around Echo Pedal. But right now, they can just control the lanes, force the rotations, and allow them to get camps. And I would not be surprised going against an Abathur composition and a Zeratul that's basically going to be held to that top lane. You can use the global to come in as Dahaka, just invade the other side, and try and take so much early game control away from BlossoM.
Yeah, just definitely make sure not to waste the first camp entirely, so maybe just wait until the tower has fallen, or maybe the gate as well, but I'm totally down with you on that train. I think they have more than enough early game pressure to invade the next Zapper camp on the left-hand side as well, and even try to steal away from the BlossoM team. For now, let's see what they do. Actually, gate and tower are gone. Are they going to follow the next piece of advice that we gave them, or are they going to play it a little safer? Magi going on the
they can literally
clean duty.
Yeah, I mean, they can literally do whatever they want, Kendrick.
Yeah.
I mean, they have so much wave clear that they forced out the rotation so heavily that they went and took that camp confidently. There's no risk of an invade. You have the Dahaka, you have that global available to you. Zeratul has had the hat of Abathur committed to him to try and win that lane, but if you're taking a look at the bigger scale of the battleground, it's definitely in favor of Ballistix.
Yeah, Hanzo even going W build here as well. Maximum PvE damage now, as long as he manages to land those scattering arrows. Material trying to go in there with an Eldrin's Might due to feeling the pressure a little bit, but they are neglecting this mercenary camp up to this point. I think they could have taken it a couple of moments ago, but now with the activation of the altar is imminent, they're probably going to wait after. But look at the experience advantage here. As we pointed out, early wave clear secures early game domination and rotation, and if you get that, an early game experience lead is nothing too uncommon.
I mean, the threat every single time they rotate. There's absolutely nothing that BlossoM can do. They're just kind of hanging out, hoping that Zeratul's getting a little bit of poke. And this standoff will be particularly interesting on whether BlossoM even tries to defend this, which I don't think there's any possible way that they can.
Yeah, especially when you have an Abathur in new team composition, you're just going to try to play it as slowly as possible. That's also one of the reasons why Towers of Doom, of course, is a relatively forgiving map for a weak, slow start of an Abathur team, because you don't necessarily lose, you know, keep health or too much tower health immediately. You can always capture those bell towers back. So up to this point, a very one-sided game in favor of Ballistix, but that could very much change after level 10.
See how it goes in the meantime, as SC did go into that scatter arrow build, so ripping through these sappers is just a pretty easy task, to say the least. They're getting vision over there. They're trying to see, do we have an opportunity for an invade? If not, where can we get that advantage? And there's an advantage as the roots go in directly behind that slide, but the Uther armor goes in, a little bit of spray goes down in the meantime.
Yeah, you know, the Pulse Bomb not really doing too much. The Uther heal was there. SCSC using natural agility to get to safety immediately, and that's the beauty of Towers of Doom when you end up playing against a Tracer and you have that tool to jump over a wall, because Tracer is great at catching up as long as it's a straight line, as long as there's open space and territory, but around buildings, around hidden and obscure terrain, she can't follow that fast.
Good point you bring up there. And, you know, I want to take a look at the Abathur build now, because we've seen some variety, especially on Towers of Doom, depending on the region that you're at, but they are lacking a lot of team fight damage, I think. It's so much burst damage. When you look at Zeratul, when you look at Tracer, there's not a lot of sustain. And so where are you going to get that? Getting that extra stab damage, that extra range allows you to poke a little bit safer, maybe get in a position to where you're not necessarily being super aggressive, but it just gives you another element to the team fight. And right there, the threat of the invade forced them off.
Yeah, like that one Eldruins was like, hold up, I'm coming in, but it was a good bluff because I don't think Ballistix was actually trying to commit to this play. Preemptive roots once again to deny any tutorial shenanigans. Wiz is trying to channel again. Jongha coming in with a backside tongue.
Comes in, unable to land it as the blink out by Wiz. SC trying to get the channel. It looks like he's going to do so. And now we are looking at 36 to 24. It is Towers of Doom, Kendrick. It's always going to be the map where we see some of the most exciting comebacks. We are talking about an Abathur composition, but it is a high level of execution for BlossoM to pull off a Zeratul Tracer Abathur comp. If it works, it's going to look amazing. If it doesn't work, it's going to go a lot like what we've seen so far through the first 6 minutes.
I don't think all is gloom and dark, though, for BlossoM. They actually did a fairly admirable job of keeping the pace up and experience. The fact that they were able to stall it out a little bit longer for those altars as well allowed Abathur to get the double soak in, and I think they're not going to be too far behind, but I agree with you in terms of core health. Up to this point, they weren't really able to secure a lot of those altars.
Not able to do much yet, but now we see BlossoM trying to find their way back into this game structure-wise, which is one of the quickest ways to get XP. But Ballistix rapidly approaching 10. The power slide out, the cleanse, and Jongha trying to go in. He gets the stun, gets the tongue, gets the land. That's going to be our first blood of the game. That is Jongha coming in on that Dahaka, but credit to Magi, the cleanse, getting the cleanse in there to make sure he could get into that position.
Absolutely. I can't stress enough how well Magi played that, anticipating actually what ETC was trying to do there, using his massive Torn body to peel for the backline. However, it was not enough after all. At least no massive cooldowns were burned on the side of BlossoM. Look at Malfurion, by the way, holding the irrigability a little bit.
He's, you know, I was going to say, there's no way you don't go Sanctification, right?
Yeah.
I mean, just, who are you judgmenting at this point? Either way, see everything pretty standard. We do see Tranquility again, but Jongha in team. We'll see if he comes in. The clone is out.
The clone is out. Modern Life going back in and out there, using all the mobility that he has. Gets chipped down, gets focused down very quickly. No real damage was caused up to this point. Jongha going into the blind tongue. That could have someone been inside. Without the copy, I'm not even sure if BlossoM can still contest this. Magi for now getting interrupted, but the Odin has been popped. That is a serious statement right there.
Yeah, that is such a menacing thing to walk into, and Wiz going in. That he blinks right back out. Tranquility is out. BlossoM hitting the reset button, but the tongue is going to land one more time. The stun going to be on the Gondar, who's forced to power slide out. A Hooligan going in. The VP on the backside, buying a moment of time. I think it's more for safety than not.
Definitely, that was a safety precaution measure here. Otherwise, the follow-up would have been too real. Another tongue lands. Jongha, you are a monster in this game, turning it around single-handedly. But also, I really think that resource management was really well done for BlossoM here, because Nasang here was so low on mana, he couldn't really sustain his team anymore. He used the Tranquility very early as well. After that, he had no juice left, no tree juice to keep anyone alive still. I think that was just a hasty engage, an unnecessary engage once again by BlossoM.
Not even sap, we're just going to call it tree juice.
Tree juice.
Tree juice.
Tree hugger, tree juice. That's what Malf's all about.
But it's sap. Trees, they have sap. I know, I'm allergic to it, actually. Either way, level 12 to 11 here. Some of the XP has been caught up a little bit in these team fights as Abathur's been soaking, but the main name of the game is obviously your core health on Towers of Doom, and we're looking at 36 to 20. And if you're on the side of BlossoM, your opportunities have been extremely limited, and you're starting to slowly lose control of this bottom lane, which is the most terrifying one, especially look, the next altar phase will be here at the bottom. I think we got a double altar phase, so the mid-bottom. And if you lose control of this bottom lane, Kendrick, that is a very difficult position to be in.
Definitely true. Let's see how much value they can get out of this push. A Justice for All affects minions as well. They take so much protection. Look at all that damage on Modern Life's copy here. Hanzo is having none of it. A double Dragon's Arrow coming in as well. Jongha trying to go for those cheeky tongues once again. Tranquility here to keep the defenses up and running.
Look, all I got to say there, that is a small play that just happened, but Modern used his clone to interrupt or intercept the tongue of Dahaka because the Dragon Arrow went on to Wiz, and he was going to die. That tongue was going to land. Modern sacrificed his clone for that. That's a small but subtle play, but it's not going to be here as Wiz gets caught in that tongue, but now Wiz turning back around, trying to take the team fight. Wiz got to be careful here.
All emergency buttons were used there. Even another one coming in with a VP. Catches 3 men inside, though. But so many abilities had to be used to once again just keep the tongues at bay. Zhongha left and right on that Dahaka. He's so good in that hero, forcing out so many early cooldowns. No, SDE alone on this Tychus is enough to keep the whole team of BlossoM away from the Tyrael. Another double channel. So many shots, so many cannon balls are now raining onto the core of BlossoM. This is looking more and more sinister.
Another one.
And another one.
It's 2 kills to 0, Kendrick. And it seems like BlossoM is grasping at straws draft-wise. This is, again, the level of execution, the difficulty level of this composition is so high that I just don't know. What are your scrim results that you're practicing this and saying this is what we know will work? It's throwing a loop into things against Ballistix, but Ballistix draft this game, not the double support that we saw. And so this draft is having a very difficult time finding kill. I don't even know if they've been close to getting a kill yet.
You know what? I think this draft for BlossoM is suffering from the Wiz disease, where they're making a call like, you know what? I'm going to go on that Zeratul and we're going to pick Avatar and we're going to make this happen, boys. But do we have enough to actually make it work? Nobody's saying a thing in communications, and they just lock it in. And while it worked for teams like KSV Black, where they actually had a Zeratul, they actually had stuff to combo it with, in this game, BlossoM looks a little bit helpless, don't they? They are trying to make those aggressive plays, but they lack the lockdown, they lack the kill potential, because Ballistix team composition is so elusive, so slippery. Trying to catch a Hanzo in Towers of Doom is so hard. Luther protection is real. Zhongha is actually turning it upside down and engaging every single time.
Kendrick, this is potentially lethal if all 3 altars are channeled here by Ballistix.
Up as well.
And the way that this has been going, Boss is there. So if you got 2 in a team fight and then you take Boss, even if you give up 1, this is potentially game over. And BlossoM has had so much difficulty in team fights that this is the moment. If they're going to turn it around, they have to dominate a team fight right here, right now.
Yeah, and the way you can play it as Ballistix, as you said, you can go for 2 altars, take a chill pill, try to bait a couple of those cooldowns, of those long cooldowns like Tranquility maybe, or the VP, and then go for the, oh, I like that move here. The Slugger is keeping the team in the game, and then go for the boss, you know, when there's no more Tranquility, when there's no more Moshpit available. So I'm really curious to see how Ballistix is going to play it out. They're playing it super safe, though.
They're playing it safe. And who can blame them? I mean, they just turn their attention to the bottom lane. Again, getting this bottom lane control. Tracer doesn't have great siege. Post 13, she has bullet spray, kind of gets a little bit of AoE damage. If you can get control of this, Zeratul's not clearing. You're sieging potential, but we've got a clone. Modern is coming in on that Zeratul clone. SDE eats the pulse bomb, uses that, and he is isolated and deleted.
And that was the wrong call, my friend. SDE trying to use the Unstoppable and the armor to keep himself alive from the Odin channel, but he was so deep in enemy territory that he got blown to pieces in a couple of seconds there. Now we see the follow-up there as well. Nasang here actually doing so much work. This time around, he's not out of mana. He is protecting everybody, and now it's time for BlossoM to really secure as much value as they can. 2 people dead for Ballistix. This is their time to shine.
It's their time to shine, and Ballistix did not obtain that bottom bell tower on the side of BlossoM. They were a little bit hesitant to make that call, and their slow rotation forced them back and in a bad spot. As BlossoM all of a sudden, Kendrick, what seemed like Ballistix was coasting, I mean, they're still pretty far ahead, but what we're about to witness...
Are you saying BlossoM is blossoming right now?
I think that they are definitely blooming.
There we go. So can they keep up the momentum? That is the question. I mean, Towers of Doom is probably the most famous map when it comes to making those comebacks happen, but can they keep up the pressure? Can they keep up the momentum? It's all about securing every single altar. If you drop down to 4, Boss is actually lights out. At Tyrael, you can't really contest it that well.
We'll see as we've got single altar phase. You can see Dahaka already using that Brush Stalker, wasting no time, making sure they don't get caught out. VP available in 9 seconds. We saw them isolate the Uther, making sure that they could not get that D-shield off. And that was how last time played out. Let's see if it plays out this time as Zhongha waiting in the bushes. Hooligan isolating. Ooh, Dudu eating quite a bit of damage.
Dudu actually getting some serious poking down here from SCSC. Now, keep in mind, we do have some funky potential plays that Ballistix can pull off. With the Sanctification, with the Divine Shield, you can actually turn someone invulnerable while channeling. And if they get just one more altar, this fancy play could be the difference between victory and defeat.
You need it twice. SDE gets the armor on the backside, eats the Pulse Bomb. He's going to go back, tap, reset. So no Pulse Bomb available for a bit longer. So we'll see. Ballistix, again, because of that factor, because of the Divine Shield and the Sanctification, you can double up on those at any moment and just get one altar now, get one altar later. I agree with you. Let's see how it plays out, though, because they're looking for a fight. The clone coming out as well.
Modern Life using the copy here. Sanctification is good. Basically sealing these the choke point here. Let's see what the BP can do. So low here is ETC. No more Mosh Pit available. Was actually interrupted very shortly there. It's a double kill for Ballistix.
It's a double kill, and they're looking for more. Dudu trying to go away. Zhangha just barely misses the tongue. They get the stun on a Nasang. Put the Pulse Bomb in return. The armor is just enough to keep SC alive, and he wants nothing to do with the rest of that team fight. He's going to get the channel in. Son got to be careful. You can see he wants to get that Moonfire, but this is not the old school Malfurion. We got that Elun's Grace at level 4. That thing does not exist anymore.
Now they're posturing up here. I think the rotation indicates that boss could be the next objective they want to go for. Still 18 seconds until Zeratul comes back. No VP ready. If they're smart and if they're counting cooldowns, then they will realize that they still can actually take this very easily. The PvE damage.
Hanzo's Scatter Arrow build is going to rip on through this. Dudu going in on Tracer. The Holy Ground's going to lock him out. That's going to be the boss pickup. And we had a little bit of a tense moment there for Ballistix, but Kendrick, they were able to clutch it out.
They were able to clutch it out really well, my friend, and I think Ballistix just played this cool, calm, and collected. They didn't really take on any unnecessary risks. They knew exactly when to pull the trigger, when to flip the switch, and as much as I like the idea behind the Zeratul and the super high aggression that we saw with the Tracer Zeratul, I just think it didn't work out this time, unfortunately, for BlossoM, and the series is now tied 1-1.
It's tied 1-1, and I can't help but appreciate the fact that Ballistix just kind of kicked it old school, went back to the drafts that they're aware or that they're familiar with, go into something. But again, BlossoM, their draft just really surprised me, Josh.
It surprised me a bit too. It feels, you know, very on the reactionary side, obviously trying to kind of claw deep in the deeper parts of their hero pools after they came out with the standard composition on the side of Ballistix. But I feel like the day and night difference between Ballistix in Game 1 and Game number 2 has got to be a huge tell for a lot of the teams here at this tournament. Looking at them and trying to find ways to push the hero pool a little bit farther and really kind of punch.
Yeah, that was just such a good display as well. And we mentioned it during the cast as well. There were so many things they had to pay attention to, but I think Towers of Doom, the map choice alone, played such a crucial role on when it came to keeping those backliners safe. Hanzo, he was so hard to catch, he was so elusive, and even the Modern Life copies weren't enough to really seal the deal at any given point for BlossoM.
The whole thing, the Uther armor, again,
so good.
Holding back there, you keep the one squishy target that you have alive. That's the Hanzo. Tychus, he got caught out the one time, but it was a really good VP, good coordination. But Tychus can keep himself alive. The Neo Steel coating, if you opt to go that route, we saw the Odin being used for armor one time. You also give yourself the unstoppable status. It wasn't necessarily the most impactful moments, but that's all that you need sometimes against compositions like that. You survive a little bit, you gain so much more when you come back.
I feel like that's oftentimes when we kind of refer to, is this backliner worth it in this situation? It's like, well, if the win condition is only going to get that one kill, why take the risky squishy? And that's where Tychus always seems to come in there. SDE, I feel like, put up a really good argument for it in that game. You know, enthusiasm
to be undefeated.
Yeah, enthusiasm well deserved. But after that second game, we are going to go to a quick commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to have more actions because keep in mind, we are tied up 1-1 here between BlossoM and Ballistix. Stay tuned.